And without much ado, let's launch into tonight's topic. Tonight, we're talking about transparency in marriage. We keep coming back to this topic because it has become necessary. A lot of times, couples hide certain things from each other. And as people, it's not always that you want to disclose everything that you're doing. And it's not always that you remember to tell your partner the things that you should. So, tonight, what we are going to do is to try to remind each other about the important things that we need to share. And we know that men and women have always been different and we're still different. And it's important that we try and focus on the things that we need to share, because sometimes men are forgetful. There are some things they will not tell their wives, and sometimes wives are also like wanting to be interactive, so there are some things they would want to know. So to avoid unnecessary conflict, we just want to go over some of the things that we should tell our partners. And then, if we know the lines between what we should or we must tell our partners, then it will be easier to know which ones are necessary and which ones we could overlook. But at the end of the day, when a husband and wife are communicating and they are talking all the time, a lot of things get said, both important and unimportant. But at the end of the day, as long as husband and wife are talking and they are communicating, that's all we're looking for, because communication is important. But men do not like as much communication as women do. So I think that most importantly, this will be for the men. For women, we will tell you everything, even the ones you don't want to hear. But for the men, we need to remind you the important things that you have to share, whether you like it or not. So tonight, our topic is transparency in relationships, or transparency in marriage. When you're married, it's not a relationship, and well, it is a relationship, but we want to call it what it is. It's marriage. Transparency in marriage. People have all kinds of ideas as to what they should share and what they should keep. So I want us to just put it into guidelines so that when we know which ones fall into categories of must share, it will be easier to apply the rules to everything else. So let's talk about the things that we need to share and how we can go about it. This is not about what you want to share or you don't want to share. It's about, does it fall into this category, so that whether you want to share or not, as long as it falls into the category of must share, you need to make it a point of sharing for the health of your marriage. So, the first reason you need to apply when considering whether to share something with your partner, your spouse, or not, is the thing you are contemplating on sharing, does it require input or agreement from your spouse? If there's something that you're keeping, if there's information that you're keeping, and that information requires input from your spouse, then no two ways, you need to share. What am I talking about? For example, if you want to buy a house or you want to build a house, there's no way one person should decide to build a house. Your partner, your spouse needs to be involved in this decision making. So, if you need your partner's agreement in doing whatever you're doing, you must share the information. So, an example is buying a house, an example is having a wedding. There is no way you can plan a wedding by yourself and go and invite your spouse to just come and plug in for the wedding. It doesn't work that way. You need to be able to agree with your spouse as to when you're going to have the wedding, how much money you're going to spend, where you're going to have it. You need to share all the details. So, in short, if whatever information you have requires input from your spouse, you have to share, whether you like it or not. The second thing to consider when when you're contemplating sharing information or not is, will it affect my family resources? If you have any information that will affect the family's resources, then whether it's palatable or it's not palatable to you, you have to share. And family resources is mostly time, energy, money, or finances. If whatever thing you've done, or if whatever information that you have is going to affect the family time, energy, and resources, you don't have a choice. You have to share. Let's make an example. Let's say you want to have another child. Having a child is going to involve a whole lot of family money. Having another child or having a child will involve family time. Having a child will involve energy. So, whether you're having children or not, the two of you have to decide together. And how many children you're having, you need to talk about it and decide together. There have been cases where the man wants one child, the woman wants two or three, or like they both want different numbers. And you see, with the women, what they do is sometimes they'll forget to take their birth control so that all you see is there's another child. There are genuine instances where people have forgotten or made a mistake with birth control. But sometimes too, it is intentional. One partner wants to have more children than the other, or one partner has decided to have children, the other one does not. And that is a huge problem. That's a huge betrayal. If you are deciding anything that will involve family resources, family time, and family energy, like it will involve family resources, which include time, energy, and finances, you definitely cannot keep it a secret. An example is having more children or having children in general. Some people will go and build a whole nother house. You see, for us immigrants, we kind of have two lives, one that you spend wherever you're living now, and the other one that you spend back home. Some people choose to go and build a secret house back home that the other partner does not know about. And sometimes too, one person will want to start a project and the other person doesn't really agree to it. Or they know that judging from whatever conversations that they've been having, their partner would not easily agree. So what they do is they'll just go secretly and start that project. But they'll be using family resources or the resources that they need to contribute to the family. They are not going to contribute all of it. They will save some and go contribute it towards their secret project. That is so wrong. If you are contemplating anything that involves family resources, that includes time, that includes energy, that includes finances, you cannot keep it a secret. You have to be transparent about it. If you need to go to school, if you need to go back to school, go do a course, go further your education. It's going to involve family time. It's going to involve family resource, family finances. You can't keep that to yourself. You can't just get up and decide, I'm going back to school and start. Family needs to plan, because if you have children, you may have to be able to accommodate that. And sometimes you may have to even move. How are you going to go to school and leave your partner there without them having been a part of the decision? You're going to cause chaos. This is not a secret. This should not be a secret. You should not decide to go to school and then you just get everything ready and then you start before you come and tell your partner, or you start school without your partner knowing. That is betrayal. That is unfair. You must share. So we said that the first thing to consider whether you should tell your partner something or not is that Does it require your partner's agreement? If it does, of course, you must tell them. Would it involve family resources? If it does, you must tell your partner. The next point to consider when contemplating whether to share something with your spouse or not is that finding out affects the future of the marriage. If whatever information you are holding on to, if your partner, if your spouse find out, will it affect the future of your marriage? If your answer is yes, then you know that for sure you need to tell your spouse before they find out by themselves. Let me give you an example. Let's say you made a mistake, you fell to temptation, you got somebody pregnant. You do not need to wait for your partner to come and ask you or for your partner to hear from somewhere before you tell your partner about it. As soon as you know, I know this is information that nobody ever wants to be the one to break it to the spouse. But once it has happened, it's going to affect the future of your relationship. You need to be able to tell your spouse so that they need to decide, am I sticking with you or I'm kicking you to the curb? At the end of the day, if you hide it for 1,000 years, you never know when your spouse is going to find out. And finding out is going to bring a huge, massive change in your marriage. So you need to be courageous. Once it has happened, it has happened. So you need to be courageous and find a way of breaking into your spouse before they go find out by themselves. Because when you are breaking into your spouse, you can sort of soften the blow a little bit. You can go with somebody your wife respects. You can sort of plan how you're going to say the whole thing so that the fall will be softer. But if you wait till your partner finds out, that is a huge tragedy, and you never know how it's going to end. But for sure, you know that when this information comes out, it's going to affect the future of your marriage. So whether you like it or not, you need to share. Let's say you fell into temptation and you had an affair with somebody. That is also important to share. You see, I talked about the men, now I'm talking about the women. That is important to share, because if your partner, your husband or your wife finds out you cheated on them, it's going to affect the future of your marriage. So you need to be able to come clean by yourself, and as soon as possible, unless of course you really do not care, because anytime it comes to light, it is going to affect the future of your marriage. Some people may like to play it safe and act like, hey, you know what, whatever happens, this information will affect my marriage negatively, so let me just wing it. If they find out, they find out. If they don't, they don't. So I'll take my chances. But that's up to you, because this world that we live in, you never know when they will find out. And you see, when you have cheated on your partner, let's say for whatever reason, nobody knows what could have happened, and that happened. For whatever reason, once it has happened, the best thing to do, the honest thing to do, the Christian thing to do will be to come clean. You need to come clean so that your partner will not be living a lie with you. You need to give your partner the opportunity to forgive you and mend the marriage. Because if you keep on keeping it a secret and your partner finds out, it's as if you hurt your partner, but you're trying to cover your tracks. So you're still being selfish. You're still hurting your partner, because by the time your partner finds out, everything that happened in the marriage from the time you cheated until the time your partner finds out will be like a big lie, a big betrayal, and a big deception, and your partner is going to find it really, 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 really hard to trust you. So it's better that you come clean. The other thing too is that once you have cheated once, it is possible that you keep cheating, because whatever made you cheat in the first place, if it's not addressed, it's possible that you do it again. By telling your partner about it, it makes you accountable, and it helps you be able to come to terms with what has happened, and it helps you both to find help to deal with it. One great way not to cheat is to allow your partner to have access to all your devices, let's say your phone, your emails, and everything. Because if somebody is going to message you, if you're going to start talking to somebody, affairs don't just happen overnight. Once you're texting somebody, you're emailing somebody, you're WhatsApping somebody, that's how it starts. And if your partner should see somebody calling you frequently and seeing some text from the person, that is not going well. They are able to step in and be like, hey, I don't like how communication with this person is going. That would help you not to cheat in the first place. And if you've cheated before, being accountable and transparent, opening up all your devices, letting your partner know where you are and whatever you're doing and whoever you're doing it with, it helps you so that you don't fall to temptation again. Or even if you begin to fall, there's somebody to snatch you out of it. So if you cheated on your partner, it's important that they know, because if they find out, that information will affect the future of your marriage. Your partner may not leave you, but they may be more vigilant in checking out your relationships, or the tone of your marriage will change. It could be like you no longer be able to trust each other like you used to. So, and another example is if you contract a chronic illness. If you contract a chronic illness, or if you develop a chronic illness, whether you like it or you don't, you need to share with your spouse, because it is going to affect the future of your marriage. You may need to call in some carers for you. You may need to set aside money for your treatment or management. Chronic illnesses cannot be treated, they can only be, many of them can only be managed. And let me tell you a story. There was this guy who who went to the hospital, and for some time he had been getting sick frequently, and he had been ending up in the emergency, because when we pulled his file, we could see that there had been repeated visits to the emergency room. And at the time that he was coming in, he was getting paralyzed. He was a strong guy, a young guy in his 40s with his wife. And then they came into the emergency room. And this guy, his symptoms were suggestive of HIV. And when we started questioning him and asking him if he had had a test for HIV before, his answers were not forthcoming. His answers were a bit indecisive. So one of our team lead was like, you know what? Can you please he told the wife to excuse us so that we can have a private conversation with this person. So we asked, when the wife had gone, we asked him, do you have HIV? Have you ever had a test for HIV? Then he began to reveal that on one of his numerous visits to the emergency room, that test was brought up he consented to it. It was done, and the results showed that he had HIV, but he had not told the wife. Imagine the shock on everybody's faces. Because come to think of it, if you have HIV in those days, I'm talking, this story happened like 20 years ago. In those days and in Africa, HIV was kind of a huge death sentence, and it carried a huge stigma with it. So, number one, how was he going to explain how he contracted the HIV? Meaning that he's been cheating and the wife does not know about it. Number two, he had not only been cheating, he had contracted HIV. So, there was a long journey of being sick. And in fact, at the time he came in and the symptoms that he was actually in AIDS. He had gotten to the point of um, the complications of HIV setting in. So he was looking at a long journey of being sick and requiring care from the wife. But here is a guy who had not even told the wife about it. Meaning that if they attempted to have sex and the wife did not protect herself, she would be an innocent person having been given the HIV. And the way it is that if the man was not willing to tell the wife, he sure would not use protection because that would raise questions in the wife's mind. So instead of protecting the wife, instead of coming clean, letting the wife know that he had been cheating and that even after cheating, he had contracted HIV, he was just going to the emergency room back and forth with the wife following him everywhere, with the wife thinking, I don't understand why my husband is getting sick so often. And I'm being a good wife, I'm sticking by my husband. This is a situation where you must tell your partner what is going on because it's going to affect the future of your relationship. You guys need to be able to sit down and plan how they're going to safeguard your health. Of course, there will be a lot of complications, but it has already happened. Nobody wants to be the one to share that news, but it has already happened. Not telling the wife is putting the wife at risk. It's making the wife not know how to plan well for the future. And that is very wicked on his part. The wife needs to know so that she can also protect herself from contracting the HIV. And now that you're sick, you have children, you need to be able to plan for the future of the children. So, this information is very vital for the future of your marriage. Keeping it from your spouse is only going to make it worse. You might even have to start writing your will because you never know. With AIDS, sometimes it can affect your brain, and then you're not even in the right frame of mind to write a will. So, all of that comes in. So, that goes to show that if there's any information that will affect the future of your marriage, you cannot sit back and decide whether or not to tell your spouse. As long as it's affecting the future of your marriage, you must tell your partner whether you like it or not, whether it's going to be difficult or not, except you just want to be a mean person and cheat your partner out of vital information that they need to know. And when you do that, you are not helping your marriage, you are only helping it to end quickly and badly. So let's recap. We said that if you are contemplating sharing information and you are trying to decide whether your partner needs to know or not, you have to consider, does that information require the agreement of your partner? If the answer is yes, you have to share. Will it change the future of your marriage? If the answer is yes, you have to share. Will it affect family resources in terms of time, energy, and money? If the answer is yes, you have to share. The fourth one is, does your partner need to know? Does your partner need to know? This one is it's we can still use the HIV example, as in sharing information because your partner needs to know. In the case of the husband contracting HIV, the partner needs to know. So let's get another example for does your partner need to know? Let's say you want to change the schools your children go to. You can't just get up and say you're changing schools, because you may not be the only one dropping your kids off, picking them up. Your partner needs to know. It's going to affect the finances of the family. You might be paying school fees. Maybe your children are going to public school and now you want to change to private school. It's going to affect school fees. You're going to have to put aside resources. Your partner needs to know. So in such a case, you don't choose whether or not to share. Let's say you want to make a gift to your family member, a gift in the form of a car. You want to buy a car for your brother, or you want to build a house for your mother, or you want to start a business for your father. This involves family resources. Your partner needs to know. In fact, with the last point, it sort of summarizes all that we've said so far. Your partner needs to know everything that's important. One other thing that we need to remember is that, especially for this example of does your partner need to know the information? Let's say your feelings have changed in the marriage and you are no longer happy in the marriage. You are contemplating divorce, or you feel that it's time for you to go your separate ways. Your partner needs to know. It's very wicked and unfair for you to just get up one day and decide you're packing your stuff and running away. You need to prepare your partner. If things are not working out, you need to speak up, because usually when you speak up, you are able to resolve issues. If you tell your partner, I'm unhappy, I need this, I need that, and because of that, I'm contemplating leaving the marriage. This is not information you keep to yourself. You need to share it with your partner, because after sharing it, one of three things is going to happen. Either your partner is going to agree with you and say that, you know what, I've been feeling the same way, so let's just amicably fix this, or let's just amicably agree and then go our separate ways. Or your partner will be like, okay, what are the things that I need to change so that we don't have to go through this? Or they'll be like, hey, how about we try some professional help, or we go to therapy and try to fix this marriage. Or they'll be like, okay, I don't care, do whatever you want to do. This is not information that you keep to yourself. This is not information that you try to like decide by yourself whether to tell your partner or not, because marriage is for two people. So if you are in the marriage and your feelings towards the marriage has changed, you need to be able to let your partner know, so that if they should start keeping their money separate, they can do that. You see, when you are in a marriage and you cheat your partner, that's very wrong. You have to be transparent. Let your partner know what is going on so that they will take decisions accordingly. A lot of times we find that partners like to cheat each other. They like to pretend that, some partners, not all, they like to pretend that things are going all right so that the other person will keep giving and will keep sacrificing. But you see, I believe that marriage is the most conditional relationship you can ever have. Friendship can be one sided, but marriage cannot be one sided. As your partner pours into you, as your partner contributes to the marriage, your partner needs to get something out of it. Your partner also needs to be poured into, and their actions need to be reciprocated. Marriage is not charity. They can't just spend their life for you and get nothing back. Or they can't just sacrifice for you and at the end of the day, you decide you want to go sacrifice for somebody else. That is wickedness of the highest order. And I find that because of that, people are being more careful in marriages. They're trying to hold on to their own. So even though they are married, they want to keep their money separate. They want to take certain decisions by themselves because they are afraid that as they give everything, they cannot trust who they're with to give back to them in the same way. When you are vulnerable in marriage, when you give everything in marriage, you need to be protected by your spouse. You need for your spouse to also give back to you. You can't keep giving without getting anything back. So it's important that you be transparent. Help your partner to know at every stage of the marriage that you are there for them and you will be true to them. When it becomes a matter of being cheated out of resources, out of time, it's like people get married early, let's say late 20s, early 30s, and they spend all that time in marriage. If you know that you want to leave the marriage, don't keep stringing them along for 10 years. Some people have left their marriages for like 10 years or 20 years, just that their partners don't know about it. All they've done is they've decided by themselves, and in their head they know they are not going far with you, so they are withholding certain things. That is wickedness of the highest order. If you want out of the marriage, let your partner know. As long as you stay in the marriage, give of yourself and give everything. And as you are being given everything, you also need to reciprocate by also giving everything to the marriage. So, a quick recap of everything that we've said tonight is that transparency in marriage, you have to consider four main things. The information you're holding on to, does it require agreement from your partner? If the answer is yes, you have to share. Does the information that you're holding on to or the decision that you are making, will it affect family resources in terms of time, energy, and money? If the answer is yes, you have to share, whether you like it or not. The next thing is the information you are holding on to, will it affect the future of your marriage? If the answer is yes, go ahead and share, whether you like it or not. It is your responsibility to share. And the fourth one is, does your partner need to know? If there's information your partner needs to know, you cannot hold on to it. You need to share it and you need for your partner to know. We've given examples. If you joined late, you can go back and listen to it. And if you join in, you're watching this at a later time, you can leave your comments, you can leave your questions. We will address it and go back to it later. One last thing I would want all of us to be aware of is that it is true that you need to be transparent with your partner. But like we talked about a few weeks ago, it's not every marriage that is a healthy marriage. I always say that there are two kinds of marriages. A normal marriage, hey, Mr. Baini, you are always so faithful. God bless you for joining and welcome. Yes, we said a few weeks ago that there are two kinds of marriages: a healthy, regular marriage, or even, in fact, let's make it three: a healthy, regular marriage where everything is working mostly fine and everybody is well taken care of, or an unhealthy, regular marriage that you have some issues here and there, but you're still working on, but you have more problems than solutions. And then the third one is a toxic marriage, a marriage in which one partner is so depraved and manipulative that they cannot even tell you the truth for you to know where you stand. It's like your life is in a balance. You don't even have the truth for you to work with it. And if you're in a toxic marriage, everything that we have said here does not apply to you. If you are in a toxic marriage, you have to keep everything secret. You have to act like you are single. And sometimes it's not easy to just get up and leave a toxic marriage. You need to plan, you need to strategize. So if you're in a toxic marriage, a marriage in which your partner lies to you consistently, tries to manipulate you, tries to affect the way you think, and tries to sabotage you at every turn, everything that we've said here tonight does not apply to you. Toxic marriages need to be treated differently. So if you're in a toxic marriage, throw all these rules out of the window. Don't tell your partner anything. Just be the dutiful wife. Do whatever you got to do to survive until you are able to move on, or until whatever you're looking for, you're able to get it. So, this is where we are going to end our discussion for tonight. I hope we've picked a thing or two, and then it's going to help us be better in our relationships, or be better in our marriages. So, whenever you have any information come to you, just pass it through this check and make sure, do I need to tell my spouse? And one thing that I wanted to talk about was that if whatever information that you're holding is not going to affect your marriage, let's say the number of people you slept with before you got married, it doesn't matter. All your partner needs to know is that you're not a virgin. That's it. As long as they know you're not a virgin, it doesn't matter how many people you slept with before you got married. It's none of anybody's business. You are who you are at the time you're getting married. If you're a virgin, you can say so. If you're not a virgin, you can say so. That's all your partner needs to know. It's up to you whether you want to share or not. How many people you slept with, who it was, where it was. It's none of anybody's business. You can choose to share or not. Some things are not necessary. And things like your family secrets, it is not necessary for you to share your family secrets with your partner. It has no bearing on your marriage. But if you are comfortable, hello, Dr. Botte, nice to have you. It's been a long time. I'm excited to see you. You're welcome. Yeah, you don't need to share your family secrets with your partner. Sometimes making your family look bad in your marriage does not help. So protect your family's privacy a little bit. Don't go and act like your family is the worst. And every family has secrets. You don't need to go and parade your family secrets in your marriage. Your partner does not need to know. But some partners are good, some partners can handle it. So it's okay for you to share, but it is not necessary. It's up to you to decide whether to share or not to share. So once you apply these rules to your information that you're considering, you'll be able to decide whether to let your partner know or not. Because it's not every time that you'd want to share, and it's not every time that you'd remember to share. But as long as you are passing it through the checklist, you would realize that, hey, whether I like it or not, I need to share this information. And let's also not forget that if you're coming into the marriage with a chronic condition, let's say your doctor has told you you'll not be able to give birth, your partner needs to know. If your doctor has told you you have a condition that will make it difficult for you to have children, even for the men, let's say you have a low sperm count, or you are sterile, you don't have sperms at all, you need to tell your partner. And let's say you're coming in with sickle cell disease, your partner needs to know. Or you have any kind of chronic illness coming into the marriage, your partner needs to know. So hopefully we've covered our bases, and whatever questions that you have, you will put them up for us to discuss at a later time. So this is where we're going to end tonight's program. And like we always say, it takes a good Christian to have a good Christian marriage. So until we meet again, God willing, next week, 6 p.m. Central Time, remember, may God bless your marriage. Goodbye.